No.
Motorcycle de hiking se salta. Muchas Jose.
All right, we got little bubbleheads there. Yes. Hi guys, how are you? Saturday as usual, number 87, Develop Your Mindset podcast, and we are back. Me and Luis, we're gonna be here as usual, talk about stuff that happens in the company. As you guys know, very interesting stuff we go through because we are busy company and we do a lot of stuff and we go through a lot. So I put together really good questions, and that's going to help us to remember and talk about what we went through. Also, this is going to relate to you in many ways because life is kind of similar when you are pushing yourself into to become successful, and that's you're going to hear a lot of positive and successful stuff about the demeanor of this whole questions and answers. Just to remind you guys, this is jewelry company. We're Kabarti Jewelry. We do a lot of manufacturing. Also, we're a designing house, and we do retailing. We have a website. We're going to put the link down below for you guys to go see what kind of designs we create here. And without further ado, Luis is going to start.
Yes, sir. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? So, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Develop Your Mindset podcast. Here we are once again. Like he said, this is a jewelry company. We sell jewelry online. And so we would really appreciate it. If you like jewelry or you're just curious about the type of jewelry that we make, there will be a link down below so you guys can go and check out the website. There's a bunch of stuff there. You can get something for yourself or somebody else, or you can even let somebody else know about the website and then they can check it out themselves. Today we've got a really cool topic and can't wait to get started with it. So
awesome.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so we're gonna start with something that it's been very right in front of my fortes, right? My head, my mind. Very thinking about this deeply, and so I wanted to bring these questions first because I feel like everybody's kind of going through this kind of emotions and questions in their mind. This kind of questions kind of keeps you awake at night, or when as soon as you open your eyes, you kind of start thinking about this because it's something it's necessary, and you have to work through it. So it goes like this: you are sharing this world with others. That means we are sharing the world with others. We're not by ourselves. If no matter how alone you are not by yourself, because you are really seriously sharing this world with 7 other billion people. Whatever you do, it's going to affect whatever the whole everybody is doing. It's going to affect you as well. So you have to become very aware of this consciously and subconsciously, because they both work very differently. Your mind and your thoughts work very differently. I feel like this is something where it has to be present in every aspect of your thinking or remembering, or you subconsciously you're thinking. It has to be present because this is something very unique, very special. Because if you don't pay attention to this could cause a lot of animosity, a lot of separation, a lot of not ease time, because you are not living in this world by yourself. You are sharing this world, especially if you have a spouse or you have brothers and sisters that you live with, and you live with someone, you work someplace that there's more different type of individuals there. This is very important for you to really pay attention. You kind of have to use your compassion side and understanding side, and making sure that those people are okay with before you do anything that you are going to as much as possible. You have to try at least your best to make everyone feel a little bit comfortable, instead of pushing people around a little bit and making people not so happy with your decisions, and that's going to affect you very weird way. Like you're not going to be too happy about it. So you this question I started because this was first thing in my mind, and this is something that I went through, and you just have to like share the space, the moment with if you have, especially people next to you, you have to share with them initially at first. So don't forget to do that. If someone's doing that and they're not recognizing, like realizing that that's what they're doing, you have to kind of like slowly come to them, let them know. If they don't understand, maybe write it in a paper and represent it to them. Or if they have a wish board, maybe you write it on the wish board. You find a way to communicate, because this is such an important point, because this is where it starts the energy. Like you don't want to shift the energy into place where it's going to take long time to work and bring it back to in the center.
Yeah.
So I think I'm pretty much okay with what I said. Let me hear your way of saying it, and then maybe I come back in. So.
Yeah. So you're sharing this world with others. I hope you've noticed that by this point. I mean, you're always, you have somebody to interact with. You're partly involved in some sort of place where you're really, you really don't have a choice but to work with others, whether that's at school, work, or, some sort of career or some sort of environment where you have to work with other people. You're essentially sharing your time, your energy, and, who you are as a person with these other people. And so the thing is that you really have to consider, like, every time you're about to make a decision, you're about to make some sort of move out in the world. It's always a good idea to always think, how this, move or decision that you make can affect other people, those people that you have around you, especially the closest ones, because who knows, maybe they're not exactly very comfortable with the way that you're operating, and so you have to be very conscious about that in that sense. So here's the thing, like, of course, there is a fine line where sometimes it is a better idea to just go with whatever you feel that is right for yourself, because it's always good that you always put yourself first, and whatever your needs are, that those are primarily covered. But however, there comes a point where, if you are actually like, part of a team, or you're working with other people, then you have to consider the other people too. You have to consider the other people as well. As far as like, when you
were in it for sure. Don't worry about it.
When you make your decision, you have to really stop and think. You can't just impulsively start making decisions like that if they will affect the people around you in a negative way. Because especially if you care about these people, because that in of itself can create a conflict, and also it creates a lack of trust with the other person if you happen to just make a move without even giving the other person a heads up. At least inform the other person beforehand that, hey, even if you are going to do it anyway, inform the other person and let them know, like, hey, this is important to me, this is something that I want to do, and it's I understand that it might affect you in some way, but I just want to let you know that, this is something that I have to do, because like I said, sometimes you just need to cover your needs. You have your own purpose, you have your own life, and of course you have to put that first. But it's always good that you communicate and you let the other person know ahead of time what you're going to do, if it is going to affect them in some way, shape, or form. That way that other person can prepare, mentally and emotionally, or at least they have the chance to really, talk it out with you, and you can discuss it. And maybe, maybe you guys reach a whole different decision after, talking about it. But it's always I think it's something that's necessary that you communicate with, especially with the people around you, because it matters. Those people matter. They're not just. It's not like you can just go and do your will and just step all over people, or just make decisions without really taking them into consideration. So yeah.
Yeah, everything you said, bro. Like, the thing is, like, sometimes people feel like this is very special to them, or it's very important to them, and you're not caring. You're like that other person or the group is not caring so much about them. Why don't you, like, seriously take your time, bring some evidence, something to tell these people that, listen, this is why I believe in this. This is why this mattered to me. Instead of just going and doing and making people really pissed off and just like throw them off, and then you have to deal with all that situation. Um, just have to become aware of this, so this does not happen. It's very easy not to happen if, like everything you said, like in the beginning, if you just move and say, do it and take care of it and just be a little bit compassionate and caring and understanding, easily you can avoid this kind of situation. This first question is very, very important, very crucial. If you're gonna continue watching this, you're gonna hear much more different depth into this type of on doing things. But yeah, you can't just do stuff by yourself, like not care and not give a shit. That's not how life works. So I think let's move to the next, which is how am I? How am I? What am I? What is my role in this world? You gotta ask yourself. Do you have a mirror home? Stand in front of it. Ask the mirror. What is my role? What am I doing? Like, am I dad? Am I dad am I daddy? Am I husband? Am I wife? Am I mom? Am I boss? What am I? Like, you have to ask yourself, you gotta kind of like really solidify it and just understand deep and own it, and then become that, and then share it with the world accordingly. You can't be all over the place and pretend that you are not that person, or pretend you are that person. That's like confusing. You make people go off way, and it's not easy to bring people back. Like, perception is reality. As soon as you put this stupid perception out there, people would like take you in that manner, and then it's very hard for them to really come back and say, no, this guy is like, or this person is like. That's a lot of work. So you have to really, initially, you have to understand, work accordingly. Don't be too selfish, one of the words. And don't act with your own understanding and with your own means of your standards and your the way you are. It's not how it is. Like, we all have standards. We all have to understand each other's standards. What takes us, what makes us go, and then you got to work with that. If you figure out, sometimes it takes a little bit time to figure out that person. Sometimes they're a little bit introverts and a little bit difficult to understand them. But once you do, you gotta take your time and ask the questions to understand the personality of that person. And then once you do, you gotta work accordingly, man. You can't just start doing some selfish crazy things and then expect that everything's going to be all right, and it's happy and let's laugh and have good time and work our ass off. It's not going to work like that. So use your compassion, care.
For sure, yeah. So compassion, kind of covering the previous point. Have some empathy, really show and express some sort of concern and appreciation, as far as like, when you're making your decisions that can affect other people in some shape or form. Because like we said, like, usually when it's cases like that, it's usually like there's usually a strong relationship in place. And so you have to think about that relationship and see if it's something that can affect it in some way. And so you have to think about the value of this relationship, because maybe if it's not worth that much to you, then that's when you're going to start doing things like that. You're just going to start making moves on your own, and you're not really going to take the other person into consideration because the relationship overall doesn't really mean a lot to you. You're taking it for granted, and you're just not putting in the work for that relationship. As opposed to if you really actually value it, you value that other individual or individuals, then you'll have more concern, you'll have more empathy, and you'll actually want to, consider the other person's feelings, the other person's perspective and point of view as far as like how they see things, and you would want to communicate that with that other person, and really try to reach some sort of you know how would you say, like middle ground,
I was thinking the same word.
Yeah, where the two of you are okay and both of you are actually getting what you want out of
Give and take.
whatever the deal is right there. And so, but it's always good, that there's constant communication between all your relationships and that everybody is highly aware of what's going on, because if not, then it just creates a lot of it can create a lot of problems down the line. And so, and some people aren't even like uh maybe you've done it in some shape or form, and the other person isn't necessarily a person who would speak up or really call you out on it. And so what tends to happen in those cases, that those people just tend to disappear on you or something along those lines, because and you're not noticing that you're doing what you're doing, that you're making decisions that may be affecting them. And so eventually they'll just not have it anymore, because it just starts to build up and build up. And so empathy is extremely important. And yeah, I mean, going with the how am I and what am I, and so what is the role, what is my role in this world? Well, that's something really to consider and to really think about and see, what's well, what is it that you want to do in this world, and how you're going to approach it, and how you're going to work with other individuals as well to, be able to move forward and succeed accordingly.
Yep. Next one is listen to your inner voice. We all have one, You have to get quiet and listen. And why do I feel it? How can I get connected to my mind and heart and super consciousness? And you have to we sometimes our mind gets really loud because it's like we're doing so many things, and or maybe like we're watching a lot of shows and we're reading a lot of books, and your mind gets so busy, so wind up, and start listening, hearing a lot of voices in your head. You're agreeing and disagreeing with bunch, and then you just have to slow down. You just have to calm down. How can I get connected to my mind and heart? You have to listen. If that's something that you really want, you really it's precious to you, it's important to you. You just don't act on something because your brain is telling you, your mind is telling you, let's go road trip, or let's go get a shot, and you just don't act on it. You just don't do it. You just listen to your heart, and then listen to your mind, connect them together, and then your consciousness has to it will get much more amplified. I'm calling it super consciousness. And then in that you can really listen to yourself and see what's important to you, also what's important to your that other person that you're involved with, or the company or whatever you're involved with. You have to listen, and you just have to, if you have to relay something to that the other side, you must do it. Like if you don't, you're gonna either regret, or you're gonna either have a lot of problems, like we say, and you can't just go ahead and do your own thing in this world. If you're living by yourself, you can, but eventually that's gonna affect you too, because like I said, 7 billion people, somewhere, somehow it's gonna come back to you. And you can't be littering the streets, you can't be breaking stuff people build, you can't be damaging the nature, you can't be doing all those things. You should contribute to life. You can't just really because you feel like doing something, and without even thinking about the repercussion, you just go ahead and do stuff, and then you have to deal with a bunch of other situations because you just created something that it's more than you can understand. Now what are you gonna do? You're gonna go sit and read 10 books to figure out what you just do? Like, it's crazy. If you don't understand it, you probably don't want to do it. Maybe you want to learn ahead of time before you actually open your mouth and do anything like that. So, end of the day, listen to your inner voice. If you're agreeing with yourself, that's one thing. But if your agreement with yourself going to cause you a situation, you have to understand that too, because that's the next level. You have to deal with that, because you can't just escape and get out of there. You work really hard to that whatever you have, and you probably cherish it and care about it, and then you just don't want to like open your mouth in the wrong way, and then you have to sit and deal with that stuff and for a long time, and that's not easy on anybody, and that's going to be really you don't want to do that. I think I want to kind of stop.
All right, so here we go with the inner voices again. I mean, I said in the previous podcast, I don't
Super consciousness too, man.
I don't hear any inner voices, man. I have yet to hear them. But what I mean, the farthest I can go is maybe talking to myself in my head. That's as far as it goes, But inner voice.
You never hear anything.
No inner voice.
Screaming from inside.
No, man.
Mad?
I don't believe in that, man.
You don't believe in that?
I don't believe
That
in
shit-
that.
That's why it's not coming to you then.
Yeah,
That's why it's not coming.
right?
Yeah. Unless I watch.
You guys leave a comment down below. I know you guys go through that. I'm not by myself going through this kind of shit.
You're on your own, man.
No way.
You're one of a kind.
I'm one of a kind.
Unless I watch like horror movies or something. Maybe I'll start hearing stuff.
Or you watch me. I don't know what I'm gonna say.
Oh. But I mean, as far as like this goes, connected to the mind and the heart, I would say it's somewhat related to intuition, and that, yes, I do have intuition, and that's pretty much as far as I'll go there, and listen to my intuition, and whenever it tells me whether something is right or wrong. Sometimes I do go with whatever my intuition tells me. Sometimes I don't. And it's just part of the learning experience. And so, yeah, but that's as far as it goes. I mean, the super consciousness, I think you explained that pretty well.
Oh my God.
I have nothing to say about no super conscious, no superpowers or anything ultra dimensional as far as the consciousness goes. I will say there's like subconscious and there's conscious. Obviously, conscious is whatever is conscious at the moment, and subconscious is like your consciousness that's sort of deep within your mind, and so that's pretty much running on autopilot there, not really thinking about what's going on in the subconscious. But there is a way to train the subconscious and make it operate in a certain way. You can do that through habits and repetition and things like those, but that's a podcast on its own. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. No inner voices.
All right. Over here, Louis, no inner voices. For me, I live in my inner voices all the time.
All the time.
So this is what I'm like. I want to tell you. I want to give that. I'm going to tell exactly what happened this week. I'm going to say the example of kind of like what I'm trying to say here. So what I'm trying to propose here or say is, okay, what does it ever happen to you when you think about somebody and the phone rings and that person just freaking called you right that second? Like, how did that happen? It happens a lot. The other day I was thinking about and talking to Rita, telling her about I had a customer that his name is Puya, and then he did a website and he was going through this and that. We were having conversation. A little bit more than 45 hours later, he called me 7 years later, and I pick up the phone. He's like, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" I'm like, "What the hell? Like, are you serious?" But those things happen. You think about something, you put that energy out, and the energy travels, and then that person gets the energy and freaking gets the phone and gets the urge to call you. And then how does that happen? I don't know. It happens. If you know, please leave comment down below. I would love to know more. But it happens, and then um, it just happened. And we talked stuff that I was thinking about exactly. We didn't talk about other stuff. And then this is something that your super consciousness is doing. We don't understand. We don't. I don't know. I don't have all the like words for you to put it and to explain to you how this happens. But this happens, and it happened this week. So we just have to. We just inner voice, right? Like we just have to. We just have to be aware of this magic. Let's call it magic.
It's magic, huh?
Magic. There's a lot of words about magic too. Do you have one?
This is not a magic podcast, man. This is a mindset, man.
Yeah, but we talk about mindsets like during the week. We go through stuff, but this is exactly what we went through, man. Like, there was not even one word added to that story. Actually, it's documented now. It's exactly how it happened. I mean, I left a bunch of things out, but there was more happened. But let's leave it at that. That was crazy. Anything?
No.
No super consciousness
No.
stories. Nothing happened.
No, not like that.
Okay. Maybe next week.
I believe in structure, man.
He believes in structures, but sometimes the universe will shock you in a very weird ways. So be
Yeah, like today.
yeah, be open to that possibilities. Like today, how to listen to your inner voice again, right? This is such an important point, man. Instead of opening your mouth, you open your ears. Okay, so I said that because sometimes when you're not agreeing with something, and then you go ahead and do it, now you're gonna explain yourself. And sometimes you knew that was gonna happen. You knew that was gonna be a problem to you, and then you did it anyways. Now because you can get away from that situation where you have to go, now you have to face it. Now you gotta shit to go through, and that shit sometimes it's heavy, and because you can't control it, it just happens. Maybe it's another person, maybe it's too dark, you don't see it, maybe it's something else. But sometimes it's better you don't open your mouth, you open your ears, you listen, you hear, and then try to fix it and try to go along with it, whatever it takes. Because if you care about that thing, you gotta if you cherish it and you messed up, you gotta listen instead of opening your mouth loud. And that's not gonna help you at all. That's gonna cause more bottleneck, and that's gonna take longer to clear. So you have to kind of open your ears and listen and come back and think about it and come back and just talk and work it out. So if you don't want to go through this, you have to listen. Sometimes your inner voice is telling you things that not gonna coincide with what you're dealing with or you're gonna deal with. You have to be aware of what you're gonna deal with. Repercussions is very important. You gotta pay attention to these things. So. Again, like leave comment down below with this thing.
Our audience doesn't hear voices, man.
No,
man. Our audience is.
Again, I have to ask comments, man, because how is that possible? How do you listen voices, anyways? Like, what is voices to you?
I'm waiting for the technique, man. I'm waiting for the structure, man.
There's no technique.
Where's the system, man?
There's no technique.
The process, man.
It just comes to you, bro.
See, man,
just the universe starts talking to you, and then you're gonna be scared in the beginning, I guess. Oh man.
I'm a very technical guy, so I try to refrain myself from talking expressing topics that don't necessarily have a specific process or technique to be able to produce the desired result.
You know what that means, right?
What is
There
that?
is one word for that.
What is the word?
Control freak. He likes to control things.
It's not control freak, man. It's just being smart, man.
Okay.
It's just figuring out what works and what doesn't, because
You have to know. Of course, you have to know what works. So
Yeah.
that's a given, man. You don't want to do things that.
because I used to be that way, like just I would just go and like do things and like just magically expect results. And then when I stopped doing that and I actually started to implement systems and processes, I started to see things happening. So from now on, that's what we do, man. And it works all the time. Once you figure out process.
I wanna add one word there: balance. Because like, yes, everything is important. Like the book that you're reading, Ray Dalio, The Principle. I've listened to that book 2 years ago. I love that book. It's amazing. I listened to it twice, and that's very, very hard to listen to. What is that? 600 pages or something?
500.
500 pages. It's really, really, really not easy, especially for me. I was falling asleep. I had to turn it off, then come back and continue listening. But I do love that book. I love all that. But the creativity is not there, right? If you are running a station, you probably want to do everything that book is saying. But if you want to create something new, something special, something that hasn't been created before, you have to have that creative side of it. How are you going to come out with colors? How are you going to come out with shapes? How are you going to come up with 1+1? It's not. You sometimes it's 1+11. You don't know. It has to look great and awesome.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry I took over the whole.
But even then, you can still come up with a system to be creative that way. You can put yourself in certain situations, go to a certain place, maybe consume a certain thing that can amplify your creativity. Position yourself in a certain place that makes you feel comfortable enough to start developing those creative ideas. And even then, like, I still believe that's just me. Uh, but as far as like opening up instead of so pretty much just listening more from what I get from this point, instead of doing a lot of talking. Well, never for me that's been something that's been quite not too much of a challenge. I'm a pretty good listener just by nature. I just of course I've also worked on it. I was born with a certain talent to do that, but also there's techniques and ways to amplify your ability to listen a little bit more. And so that's really exciting, but it definitely helps out when you're able to just listen more than you're able to talk, because by listening you understand, and then by understanding you're able to provide a more efficient, more calibrated, more effective delivery once you do actually start talking, and you don't sound like somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, or they just sound very like. And of course in this podcast we're talking more about like empathy and having compassion for the other person. Well, if you don't listen to that other person, then there's just no way you're going to have any compassion or empathy for the other person, because you don't understand the other person. So there's just no way to express any sort of compassion or empathy, because there's no connection there. You never listen to that person in the first place. You don't understand how they see the world. You don't understand their values, their standards. You don't understand none of that because you haven't listened to them properly. So definitely there's huge benefits to listening. And when you do listen, once you do understand, you're able to say things that you don't even have to calibrate that, because you've already listened, you understand. Naturally you're just going to say things that are more empathetic because you understand the other person. But yeah,
That was a good point. That was really good. I enjoyed that. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes, especially younger people, like some they haven't developed that skill, and they just talk over all the time, and then they don't listen, and they don't know that they are messed up. They can be so much better in if they learn how to listen a little bit. Um, yeah, that point was really great. So the next one is, let's go to the next, which is like, can you become a part of pendulums and do selfish moves? Of course you can. Like, pendulums are all kinds of stuff. Like, people get into a lot of pendulums. What is pendulum? It's a movement. It's a crowd. It's a idea where people come together, and then they believe in the same idea, and then they just become behind it, even though this idea is sometimes negative. Sometimes it's not going to change your life, but you do come behind it, and then you just create something uh, electrifying, crazy thing, where sometimes those are really movements that has been created from this kind of pendulums, but sometimes they're destructive. You have to understand this, that if it's destructive, you need to get away from it. You cannot change it while you're in the pendulum. There's no way, because you are part of you became the pendulum. You are the voice, the crowd, and the best way is that you need to drop it and get away from it, and so you can relax and come down and become to yourself, to your center, and then look over there, and then kind of like figure out, what the hell was I doing, and how many times did you tell yourself, what the hell was I doing? Many times, right? So this is we get caught up into selfish, crazy pendulums, and it becomes selfish, actually. And then you just sometimes regret afterwards. You be like, what the hell was I thinking? And you just have to, before you get into maybe like pendulums, you have to kind of like gauge it and know what you approximate expectation of what's going to come out of it. And you just have to um, grow, become better in this, understand what it's doing, what's happening, and then you're gonna make your choices accordingly. You cannot just jump into any pendulum because your friends are excited and doing, and that could probably be okay for you, but it won't be okay with your spouse or with your brothers and sisters and whoever you're connected to. So you got to know.
Yeah, so you become part of pendulums. Of course, I mean, I think this is like you're gonna become part of pendulums no matter what. I think the thing here is that you become part of the pendulums that are actually aligned with your values and your standards and whatever it is that you want to believe it. So I think in order for you to be able to choose those properly, you have to really know yourself and understand like what do you value out of life and what you don't. That way you're able to repress and push back on the pendulums that are not good for you, and you're able to go and be part of the ones that actually do fulfill you and that you can learn a lot from. So I think pendulums are amazing, especially if you're able to join a good one that you can surround yourself by people who are in the same journey. You can learn so much from the people in that pendulum, and at the same time you can provide your own value to the pendulum as well, and at the same time also you can continue that movement going, whatever it is. So it can become a stronger movement, and obviously if you value it, then that's obviously good, but you have to choose those consciously. And the selfish moves. So I guess this is when the pendulums sort of contradict each other or something, like with other people in your circle.
Yeah, like you become part of pendulum that could be destructive for your what you care about.
That's right.
Hi,
We have a call.
your call.
We have a
It's
call.
interfering with our. All right, it stopped already. Yeah, it's part of like maybe for that moment in that group, it's fine and all that. You're having a blast and you're enjoying yourself. When you go home, you have to explain yourself, and then that's where the trouble starts.
For sure.
And then you gotta know this, man. You can't get involved with something that you're gonna have situation back home. So
For sure.
you gotta just be aware of it.
For sure. I think at that point, you really got to decide what's more important for you, your pendulum or your relationship with this other individual at that point. So, obviously, if the relationship is more important, then you might want to consider dropping out of it, dropping out of the pendulum. But if it is something that's very, very important to you and it is creating a situation for you in a way where it's not good, but at the same time, you value this pendulum and you feel like it's part of you, then you really got to let the other person know, and then you can go from then on. Maybe the other person can actually be more accepting of your pendulum, or they can just you guys can just part ways, or whatever it is, however you want to deal with that. But like, definitely it's something that you got to really communicate with the other person, as opposed to just going and operating on your own. If you're already like committed and you're part of a relationship, or you're part of a friendship or whatever relationship it is, you really gotta communicate with the other person and not just operate that way if you know that the other person is on an opposing side of this pendulum. Yeah.
Yep. Good job. Opposing side. The last question. This was really good. I enjoyed this podcast. We did really. Hopefully, we put out really good information for you guys to think about. If you guys going through this kind of thing, would love to hear from you. And I believe that we all kind of go through this kind of things. We're a little bit different, but overall, we're all human, right? Our minds are a little bit it works about the same way. That's why we say develop your mindset, because we have to learn how to become a better version of ourselves. And so the last question goes again, develop your mindset on reflecting on unity. What is reflecting on unity? Unity is double, right? What is double? Maybe it's you. I have my double. What is my double? I look at in the mirror. I see my double. I talk to myself all the time like that. Not walking. I'm talking to myself. I'm not crazy. But I do talk to myself. I tell myself, like, is this something you want? Do you care about this? Like, is this something important? Do you want to pursue this further, or you want to like drop that or this? And I talk to myself. I coach myself. I tell myself things, because your subconscious and conscious mind is two different things. Does two different things, and their roles are different. So when you kind of like talk to yourself, you are talking to your subconscious most of the time, and you sometimes you do remember when you do that. Try it if you haven't done it. Once you do that, you're gonna probably a few days later you're gonna remember that picture of you in the mirror, thinking, or you talking to it, and that comes to your mind, and you kind of like remember that, and then that's very awesome, because like you're actually remembering you, like you're talking to yourself, and that's something I practice. It helps me. So unity is very important for me, like in that way. Also, heart and mind unity is very important, like we talked about it. And super consciousness it's unified. That's what it means. That's how I take it, and you have to develop your mindset about this unity thing, So
Yeah, for sure. So develop your mindset on reflection of unity. So this is what I spoke about earlier. Talking to yourself. I think this is more real than the inner voices. But for sure, I mean, I definitely do this a lot. Just it's been happening, maybe new things that I've learned, new things that I've experienced. I like to really talk to myself, to really understand those things in my own words, really, and be able to extract any sort of nuggets here and there, that I can apply moving forward, so that maybe it was a mistake, so that way I don't make the mistake again, or maybe it was a success, and so I want to extract whatever nuggets are there, so I can replicate the success in the future and keep on growing from there. So definitely, there's huge advantages to be able to understand yourself and be able to talk to yourself in that manner. Like you said, it's almost as though you're coaching yourself and really teaching yourself to grow even more. So definitely something good for you.
Yeah. With that, I think we are done and we're closing this podcast. And we appreciate you guys being here, listening, and understanding what we're saying. And I hope you guys leave comments because we'd love to hear what you have to say about this whole um, pendulums and talking to yourself in the mirror. And that would be cool to hear from you guys, to see you involved in this podcast, because we'd love to have two ways of communication here. And don't forget, this is a jewelry company, and we have a website. We're gonna leave the link down below, obviously. And then we are retail, manufacturing, and please visit. Let us know what you think about the website too.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in once again, watching another one of our podcasts. So there's gonna be links down below. Check out our shop, Develop Your Mindset Podcast Shop. You can buy things like our mugs, our shirts, and stuff like that to support the podcast. It's going to be links to our social medias where you can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, link to our book. If you haven't yet checked out our book, The 10 Stages to Skill Mastery, excellent book. If you're looking to become a master in whatever field that you're in, definitely check that book out. It's going to teach you how to do that. There's a downloadable ebook version, and there's an audiobook version too if you just want to listen to it on the go. And thank you very much. And
Awesome. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.